If you like what you're seeing and hearing, please consider subscribing to the podcast. You can go to either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, or Amazon Music in the podcast section. It'll hit Monday morning or Sunday afternoon, depending on when it posts. And the video will hit on YouTube and Spotify Monday. Spotify will hit Monday evening, and YouTube it'll hit Monday morning, 7 a.m., just like it does for the audio services. So please go to those places and consider subscribing or listening to the show. You can also write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com if you want to write me a letter. Let me know what you think of the show, things like that. Or you can also find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So go to those places and please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks. And with that, we'll get on to the episode. No real big announcements this week for the show. Just to know that this is an audio-only episode. My friend and I just had a chat. He was far away. The quality on both our ends, I mean, his looked a little bit okay for video. Mine looked a little bit okay. But yeah, you'll find out pretty soon, but we're just getting older. We've known each other for a long time. Martin Chick, that's who it is. He's been on the podcast before. But we're getting older, and we're realizing it's getting harder and harder to make time for games. And so we talk about that. He's a parent, he has different responsibilities. And, how do you come to terms with like doing something you love, but maybe not having a lot of time and things like that. And so that's what the episode's about. So after this fades away, audio only. But again, thanks everybody for listening or watching. Have a good week. So Martin, we're here. This is I guess this is what you would call a casual Saturday, I suppose, because you're literally drinking coffee. Yep, you got your coffee. No, I text you. I wanted to talk about it because I've been thinking about it a lot lately as I've been getting older, and I know for you have a totally different perspective on this. But gaming changes when you get older. I still like to game. You game occasionally, when you can.
Yeah.
But everything changes, right? And so, like nowadays, because I know, we were both young kids and we used to play for hours, like especially in high school when you didn't want to do homework, you'd come home Friday afternoon, throw your book bag in a river, and then just go upstairs and play whatever. And then on Sunday night, fish your stuff out of the river and do your homework. But
Last minute.
you could do that. But now, life, I don't have kids, but even the game I'm playing now, Tears of the Kingdom, I told you I was playing it. My long session is like 3 hours on a Saturday or something, or maybe playing it for 45 minutes and putting it down, and then coming back. So like, how's that changed for you? I mean, you have kids, and you're planning a wedding. So what is that like now for you? What is gaming? How has it changed?
Um. So yeah, when it comes to gaming, it's your time frame, right? Um. Just like anything else, that if you wanted to read a book, you devote time to it or something like that. But with video games, I do have kids, but they are starting to get older, so it's actually a little easier to make that time to play.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but how it's changed for me isn't so much the time that I get to play, because usually my best time to play is when I don't have them, or most of the time it's on a Saturday or a Sunday for like an hour when I'm drinking my coffee before they come downstairs. But it's more about the changes in my life that have changed gaming for me. It's so there are times where I have time to play,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I'm just not in the mood to play. Like, games sometimes just don't feel the same anymore. Um,
Yeah.
for
Like,
me,
have you noticed that? Have your taste changed for gaming, or do you still stick to the same, like, action RPG stuff, or do you play like, I'm gonna play Forza? You don't really play driving games, or you're like, I'm gonna give this a shot.
um, well, since I've been with Lisa's kids, they've got me to change to play sports games, baseball, football, UFC. I downloaded a soccer game that I haven't yet played, but I want to try to play. But um, those are really good because you can do like a quick match, which lasts 15
Yeah,
minutes.
And
you
they
know.
compress they compress the time in the games, right? You could do like a quarter in like
Mhm.
3 minutes, or you could set the time, which is great, right? If you're like, hey, I got 30 minutes, I'm gonna do, a game in 30 minutes or more.
Yeah, for sure. So, no, I still stick with the same genres. I'm still looking for a really good first person shooter that they don't exist anymore. They
Mm.
after COD, I think it was Modern Warfare. All the other CODs, they're starting to just not they're not as good anymore. And then you got people that are really good at it and they know the spawn points. So you don't even have a chance. And now you have professionals playing it. So now your chance is even less. So uh for me, I go with more of content.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
looking for that really good RPG that for one, because we talked about when you level, it's an addiction, right?
Oh
So
yeah, you get that little hit. Oh yeah,
yeah, and you're like, oh man, I got a million left before I hit my next level, and so you just keep playing it, and then you listen to the story, and you can upgrade this and that, and just the open world type thing. So for me, I look for a really good RPG. Um, because I really do enjoy leveling. I do enjoy the stories. I do like how you can take your character, but even those RPGs are few and far between. So I'm starting to play Inquisition again.
Hey, I remember the first time I played that, I beat it, and I remember my clock at the end was like evened out, which is weird because
Yeah.
usually it's like 71 hours and whatever. I was 82 hours exactly when I logged out, and the only thing I logged back in to do after I beat the story was there was two dragons that I ran by that just kept just killing me. And I logged back in and killed those two dragons, and then logged out and deleted the game. I was like, They're like, you could go for the other eight. I'm like, I'm not going for the other
Yeah.
eight. Like I had a vendetta against those two, and once I killed them, I don't care.
Yeah.
So, I will say I recently went back to Destiny because it was free,
Hmm.
and Bungie, obviously Halo, they have if you don't have to worry about the story in Destiny. That's what I've realized. I do like the designs. I like the sci-fi feel. This story is complete and utter nonsense. Like every time they start talking about proper nouns and the places, I just check out. But the scenarios they put you in to basically be an FPS are, I think, unrivaled. I think it's better than COD. Of course, I haven't played COD in a bit, but the idea of the synergy between upgrading your, getting the right weapon in the right energy slot to get ammo for it. The boss encounters, although they are bullet sponges, are incredibly, like, I'll get in, like, I just call them murder rooms, and it's hard and I die a lot, but you're having such a good time.
Yeah.
And the fact that the first person shooting is dialed in so tight. I mean, it's Halo, but just dialed that much better. So if you're looking for FPS and you don't care about story or don't like sci-fi or whatever, Destiny is free to download. Destiny 2. I would download it and give it a shot just for the first couple missions to see if you like it. Um,
Creators of Destiny, if you're listening.
yeah, I mean, I think they know because they've had to do things with the design of that they've like, hey, this game's getting big,
Yeah.
so actually we're taking some content and vaulting it. Literally, you won't be able to access it, and they rotate stuff in and out of being vaulted, raids and things. It's kind of a mess. I remember reading a little bit about how they designed the game, where originally it was supposed to be a first person or like a campaign, like Call of Duty, and then
Yeah.
be done. But it kind of grew and grew, and I think that's where some of their problems are, where they're like, this is getting so big. What do we do with it? And but yeah, I mean, I would say give that a shot if you want to try something new. Again, it's free, so you're
Yeah.
not out. You just have the time. Again, the you may you could at least have the morning coffee if it doesn't work out. You're like, at least I'm drinking my coffee. I don't like the game, but
Well, that's one
I've been doing
thing.
that.
That's one thing I kind of miss is like the Destiny platform. Like, because you know how in Destiny you're just wandering around, and before you know it, you're in like a boss battle because he timed back in, and you're like,
Oh
what's going
yeah,
on? And then everybody
like an
started coming in.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then people out of the woodwork started coming in to help you with the event. And then they help you, you get the achievement, they disappear. You're just like, I don't know what happened, but I'm gonna go loot everything. So
again,
I
yeah,
missed I missed the wow factor, the World of Warcraft.
yeah,
But I don't miss the grinding from WoW, but I miss
yeah,
the you're in the middle of a boss and then three or four people are just running by.
yeah,
They help you kill them. You give them a bow. They say you're welcome. They take off. I miss. I miss playing that. And so the other day, I actually, probably about a month ago, I re-downloaded Guild Wars 2. Um,
Hey, it's free.
it's
That's
pre-
a good thing about that. Yeah.
well, I started playing it, and I realized that Guild Wars 2, although it was fun and it's a community, um, it's basically going from town to town, checking out all the interests areas,
Yeah.
setting a flag to where you need to
Yeah.
set the flag, grinding a
Yeah. The.
little bit to help the townsfolk, and then you move on to the
Yeah.
next town and do it. There's no massive adventure like in WoW. So, I might try Destiny 2 again, just because it is a first person shooter. It's got that
Yeah.
the World of Warcraft feel to it. It is a
Mm.
style of an RPG.
Yeah.
Um,
I know some people. I don't. I don't think I've ever formally asked you. Like, you don't. You like sci-fi. You're fine with that. Some people just don't like that aesthetic. You know,
mhm.
they want like fantasy or whatever. I think you're okay with that. You like that kind of.
Oh yeah, man. I
I.
grew up on like Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, and then we watched Star Wars, but it was never our household. My father's household was never Star Wars versus Star. It was not like that. It
Oh,
was it was that Battlestar Galactica. We watched Dune. We watched all that stuff. So I like sci-fi. I like
God.
being taken to an adventure that doesn't ever exist or won't ever exist.
Yeah, it won't ever exist. I will say that Sony had a presentation last week of like upcoming games, and Bungie back in the day in like '94 came out with a game called Marathon,
Hmm.
and they're kind of rebooting it. You can check it out. It's a Bungie Merit. Just type that into YouTube, Bungie Marathon. I think the art style is pretty good, and it's an extraction shooter, meaning you go in, get loot, and extract out, kind of
Okay.
like the Division. But the art style is incredibly striking. It does remind me of Destiny a bit because it takes place on another planet.
Yeah.
So their art team of like, hey, design a weird planet where they can have this arena, whatever. You just see that like, yeah, like they've been prepping for this with Destiny the whole time. I don't know if it's gonna be. I think it's just PlayStation and PC, but I don't know. Back to the gaming thing. I value. I think I'm kind of like you, where like some things don't hit like they used to, but especially with the podcast, like trying to find games that maybe focus more on narrative or
Hmm.
like want to say something as opposed to, I like Mario Brothers and like finding moons or stars, but like that idea of somebody trying to say something with, hey, we have 2 hours of someone's time. Let's see if we can craft a narrative in this way. And then, there's been a big discussion in games about should they be like movies? Should they be more cinematic? And some people on one side saying, yeah, of course, let's make them as big as possible. And other people saying, well, listen, this is different than movies. It's interactive. So how can we use that
Yeah.
to leverage the platform to have new
Yeah.
experiences,
So
And
I,
so,
I think with games nowadays, like now that I'm thinking about like the differences between games and times and stuff like that is like when you're a kid, you just play whatever. And we've got to be part of the great generation to where we had the Nintendo all the way up to the unveiling of uh, PlayStation and the Xbox. I don't think anybody will ever have that thing ever again. I mean, we had Genesis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
But now,
poor
since
Sega.
since COVID, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But like with movies and games, people have just been creating shit content and charging a buttload for it. So to sift through that stuff, and for people like you and me that we don't have a ton of time, and the time that we want to devote to playing a game, we want it to have some sort of content. And it doesn't have to be like story driven. It could just be a really good game that we have an hour to devote to just to lose ourselves. But
Right.
there's not been too many games like that. And that's why I'm hesitant to pull the trigger on what is it? The new Harry Potter game. I've never played a game
Oh,
like that
yeah.
before. I like
Hogwarts Legacy. Yeah.
Hogwarts. Yeah, and I've heard really good things about it. I've watched
Yeah, I mean,
gameplay
it
of
was.
it.
I think it sold like they announced the last time I heard, and this was a while ago. They said they sold 12 million copies, so it's probably around 20. I don't know. It sold a lot of
Yeah.
copies.
So I want
So
to I want to try that, but just because it's not, if it sold a lot of copies, then the following is huge. So of course they're going to
yeah,
sell a lot of copies just because of the following. But doesn't mean it's
yeah,
a good game. But I've been hearing good things
yeah.
about it, so I want to play it. And then I also want to play the new Star Wars. But the one I'm really, really looking forward to, if I'm going to spend
Oh, the Jedi
$70,
Survivor, that new
yeah.
one. The yeah.
So the one I'm wanting to play if when they release it, because they keep pushing it back, uh, is that new pirate one, like Skull and Crossbones or
Oh,
Bones
Skull
or
and
Skull
Bones.
and
Skull
Bones.
and Bones. Yeah, yeah,
It looks beautiful. It looks good.
yeah.
I like pirates because they don't ever do a pirate game.
Yeah,
Um,
there's Sea of Thieves, but like that's a comedy pirate game that Rare did for
and
Xbox. So
I don't know
you,
if you ever tried that, but I tried that. That was not worth the
well,
90 gig download.
well, I don't know when you tried it, but you know, when it came out, a lot of people were like you, like this is not great, but like they've been supporting it for. I mean, it's still
Yeah,
supported
no,
today,
I downloaded it
and
about a month ago to give it a shot.
yeah, I will say some of the stuff about like shooting yourself out of a cannon looked pretty cool. I saw one guy in an early video hold his beer mug and then launch himself out of the cannon, and he landed right in front of the bar at the island he was at, and then walked into the bar and got it. I was like, that's like stuff like that is nuts, you
Yeah, I
know?
think
Like it's
those games would be great if you had a crew to play with.
yeah,
If you're playing by yourself, they're not that fun. But those types of games are good if you have a crew. But once again, that comes down to time. People that have
yeah,
the time to go, kind of like WoW. Well, hey man, we're gonna get on. We're gonna run an instance. There's gonna be like
yeah.
30 of us. We're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna devote 8 hours to this instance. You know,
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
don't
it's
have that.
that's really hard. Like Destiny instances, you know, that's one thing I'm reticent to play Destiny that hard is because those raids you have to be good,
Yeah, you have to
you
be
know.
geared probably too.
Yeah, and then you have to say like, okay, this is 6 hours, you know, and then you don't want to be the one. I mean, you and I have been there before playing WoW and stuff. We were like, was that me? Is that why we all died? That was me, wasn't it? Oh crap.
Yeah.
Well, we can just do this again, you know. But that feels really bad. In fact, I play Final Fantasy 14, the MMO,
Hmm.
every once in a while. I budget it by you. You can buy the prepaid cards like you can with
Hmm.
WoW. So I buy those every once in a while and I'll play. I got a card I haven't played because once you load it, you're locked in for 2 months or whatever.
Hmm.
But that's one thing I don't like about that game is for the story, they force you to go in the dungeons. Like you have to go in the dungeons for the story. And that was one thing I liked about WoW is you could ignore that aspect of. So you can be like, I'm playing alone. I don't have friends. I just want to not do the dead mines or whatever.
Hmm.
And this, it's like you gotta go. So like I feel like such a bone anchor whenever I go in because every role is important. I'm supposed to be the tank because that's the only character I have. And one guy was really nice, but he was healing me the whole time we were doing the dungeon. And at the end, we killed the boss. And I mean, I don't know if he was yelling because he was typing it, but he's like, "Hey, you need to upgrade your army. You need to do this." I ran out of mana. I shouldn't have ran out of mana. And it's one of those things you're like, I just want to play the game. Like, I don't want to be a boat anchor. I only have a limited time this Saturday to play. I want to get through these story beats because there's main missions just like in every MMO. I want to get through these big story beats. Oh, now these people all think I'm a loser, like,
Well,
and now I've made everybody else's experience bad, and I'm literally, everybody uses the word casual as a negative, but I think it's fine if as long as you tell people, hey, I just casually play this game. I just want to mess around. Can you get me through this dungeon? No problem, man. Let's go through this. But like, just going in of like, hey, this is my first time, and everybody's like, oh crap, you know?
Well, I follow. I mean, your definition right there, your explanation of it, not necessarily definition, but I follow guys. They do live action uh, role playing, and they're all parodies, right? And you can tell these people are gamers, and they're hilarious. They It starts off with people are waiting outside of this instance, and they're like, "Where's John?" or whatever his name is. He's like, he was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. John pops in,
Oh
you know,
yeah, yeah,
has
yeah,
his
yeah,
little name above it and stuff like that. And they're like, "Where have you been? You're the tank." We already have people
yeah,
in the instance like wearing it down for us, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "I'm sorry. It took me a while. I had to get my kid fed and into bed." And they're like, "Okay, make sure you're spec'd for fire damage because you're our tank. So you need to be able to absorb a lot of fire." And he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, whoa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm spec'd for that." And they're like, "Because this 8 hours." And he goes, "Whoa, eight
yeah,
hours and he goes,
yeah,
"Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
this is capturing the gate of Kamajuan or whatever, that sort of thing." And then
yeah, yeah,
they're giving him crap about it, and he's like, "I don't understand how you're not geared to do this." And he goes, "Listen, I work 8 hours a day. I come home and
hmm.
take care of my kids, and the
I
what
want to do
little
this for
hours
fun.
I have left, I come on to just escape it all and play with
Yeah,
you guys." And they're just like, "Why are you yelling?" And that right there
What?
You said
That-
you said casual. That right there is, we're not we're lifetime gamers, but we don't have the time to
yeah.
vote to spec our guy out and just grind because we need the last piece of boots, you know?
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I left one of the last World of Warcraft guilds I was in was because the guy that got I didn't want to be in charge. A guy got promoted or whatever, and you're talking, and officers can talk to you or whatever. And he goes, "Hey, if you're in this guild, like everything just changed one day." He goes, "You have to be on this Saturday for 6 hours to do a raid," and I was like, "I can't. Like I have things," and he goes, "Well, that's how this guild is."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, I'll see you later." Like I know there's probably some guilds out there that are like, broken parents guilds where they're like, "Hey, I got 45 minutes. Can we do this thing together in this game?" I was just listening to a podcast yesterday with a guy who was a dad, and they were all parents. It was all dads, and one guy was about to be a father. His kid's going to be born in June, so he was asking them parenting tips. But they're all gamers, and one of the guys there, Patrick, lost his job in games media and said, "I'm starting something new, but it's for parents who game," and how the first person I'm interviewing in the series is a single parent who is a game developer. So how do you make that work when you have to be at work so many hours, but you have to take care of a kid somehow or work out daycare, and like how does your love for gaming change? And he said it's all based on parents and their love of games. And I was like, that'd be an interesting podcast to listen to, to see, like, again, like, you know, and I think everybody thinks the word like change could be bad. Like, hey man, you and I have been there literally online together playing WoW till like 2 in the morning. Those days are behind us. One, I don't think we could stay up that late. We could if we had to, but
Yeah.
it's got to be worthwhile to do it. And two, I'm kind of okay with not doing that because, like you said, there's a lot of grind in some of those games. And if you're just like, hey, like Tears of the Kingdom right now, there is grind for like some resources, but at the end of the day, you could say, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go do something else, and you can go do it. And it's very easy. There's fast travel points around the map. You have the ability to fly. It's like they just give you all these tools to do it, and it's like when more games say, "Listen, we want you to play the game how you want to play it, not how we do it." I think that's a way that games are kind of like changing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we understand, and plus, there's so many games now that I think developers are like, how do we, like there's a CRPG I'm playing right now, like the old school, like Baldur's Gate and whatever. Those things could be like hundreds of hours. Remember back in the day, you'd sit there and click, and it was all turn based. The one I'm playing now, I kickstarted it for like $20 years ago. I've been slowly playing it. The up end of what you play is like 30 hours or 35 hours. And I was like, that's totally manageable. You can cut that into a couple of chunks in the weekend. This isn't like a 120-hour thing where you're just like, when does this end? Like I don't know what's happening and I don't care anymore. And it's been 80 hours. And another thing, I was playing Dragon Quest 11, the newer one, and they had a recap feature, which blew my mind. A big RPG like that, I put it down for months. I picked it back up. It's like, here's where the story left off.
Yeah.
And it would just give you like 4 paragraphs. And you're like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like I forgot. It's like, I wish more games did that
Yeah.
because they could just be like, hey, it'd be nice if they just, like a little loading screen thing. And it's like, hey, we've seen you haven't played this in like 3 months. Do you want to recap? Yes.
Yeah.
And then they recap and you're like, okay, now I know what's going on and I can do whatever I was doing or whatever.
I think to answer the question in the beginning is like, what has changed? I think for me, I haven't changed. I still love to play. I still look for those games that are worth my time to play rather than just play them, and that's why I like the Game Pass, because
Yeah.
some games are great, but most of them are just crap. So I think in the long and the short of it is it's not me that's changed. It's the games that have changed in the sense of gaming used to be fun, and when people found out that they can game and make money and Twitch stream, and then it became a job. And so it's no longer a game. It's I want to be like this Twitch streamer, or I want to be like the next
Yeah.
Call of Duty person that
Games
makes millions of dollars by going to
games
this
are yeah,
thing.
games are designed now for streaming.
Yeah.
Developers will be like, we want people to stream our game.
And
And
that's
so what do we do to stream
yeah.
games? And it's like, okay, like I guess I the only thing I'd say is like games have changed, but I think there's also so many more games
Hmm.
that is hard to weed through. And like, again, talking about like you and I talk about this all the time. Influencers like podcasts we listen to and people we talk to, they are influencers, but that doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah.
Like you listen to podcasts you listen to, and if somebody you're listening to says, "Hey, read this book, it's great," you trust that person's opinion, and you're probably going to go check that book
Yeah.
out. Same way with me. I listen to gaming podcasts. The people that I trust say, "This game is not worth your time. This one is not worth your time. These two games are worth your time." Then I'm going to go check those games out, and it allows me to filter out all the other stuff out there, and I appreciate that. And so I know a lot of people are like, oh, influencers, blah blah. It's like, and then even Twitch to a degree for me is good because there's fewer demos out there nowadays, and if I don't know, a new game comes out and you're like, I don't know if I want to play this, you can just watch someone play it and be like, oh, this looks pretty fun, or not for me. And it's just another way for you to try out a game kind of without really
Yeah.
trying it out. And I think for me, again, change isn't bad all the time. And for me, the change that I've had is that um, I don't have to pressure myself. And two, you know, um, like you said with Game Pass, if I don't like a game, I can delete that pretty easily nowadays. And I noticed I was going through some subscriptions and canceling stuff to save some money. To get Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass are the same price.
Yeah.
So I was going to go down and just get Gold to $9.99 a month, but you can get Game Pass for $9.99 a month. So I'm not losing anything by keeping Game Pass and games with Gold.
Right.
And again, that's just a service where you're like, oh, like I can try this out. Like Redfall, I know you said wasn't great. You tried it.
Did it? I would play Redfall as if you had a group to play it with, because the graphics are horrible. The gameplay isn't bad, but the sense of what they show you as the game's up and coming and now it's released and then you start
Mm-hmm.
playing it, it's bad. It's
Yeah.
I can't believe they would have released it in this day and age with the hype they put on it. It really isn't that good. The mechanics aren't great. The handling is very, very touchy. Um, and I played it for like 2 hours, 3 hours just to give it a good old fashioned
And you
shot.
couldn't and you couldn't do it. You're like after
Mm-mm.
3 hours, you're like, no. Well,
That
the
is not a
people
that is
that
not a $60-$70 game, man.
the people that designed that are the same people that did Dishonored and Dishonored 2. So
Mm.
you take that and you go to Redfall. I mean, the head of Xbox basically apologized for that game on a podcast I listened to because it reviewed so horribly,
So
and
bad.
because also I think I told you this, but like the idea was that it was the first time Xbox was asking $70 for a game, which is like the new price for games.
Yes.
It was their first major release for $70 if you don't have Game Pass.
Yes.
So for $70, is this worth it? And the game got 5 out of 10s, 4 out of 10s everywhere because people are like, and Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, even admitted, you know, it wasn't bugs because he said I've heard discussion about delaying the game, and his quote was, "It isn't bugs or polish. The fact is the vision of the game isn't there. So if the fundamental vision of the game isn't there, you can't patch that to make it better. There has to be something there that people want
I
to."
don't think I agree with that. Not at all. I think it is polish. So I think the vision of the game, like say the story and what they were trying to do, I don't think it's been done before. You remember that show that was on Netflix we were talking about the small town that had vampire come in, and it was the
Oh,
preacher.
like 30 Days a Night was one of the movies that came out with that,
Well, it was the
like that
preacher,
idea.
and then the um oh, it's a new movie. I can't remember. It was like Nightfall or
Night Watch or
Night
something.
Watch, something like that. So that's what that kind of reminded me of. So basically, the vision of the game for me with the story was I liked it. It's a small community town just infested with vampires. The vampires stay in the town, so they don't leave anywhere else and try to infest anything. And then there's
Right.
this communication between the vampires and the humans. We we will we will feed off you as long as you abide by us, we will not kill you. But then there's an uprising. And so vampires and
Oh,
their followers go after the uprising and they're trying to wipe them
right.
out. So I like the game. Polish, absolutely. It was like you took 10-year-old 15-year-old graphics, you slapped it into a nowadays game, and it did need polish, but I think they were so in a rush to get the game out that they were like willing to
Well,
trade things.
the thing is, they delayed it as well,
Well, they should have
and
delayed
a
it
lot.
longer because with the new Xbox, the graphics can actually hold that what they were trying to
Mhm.
do, and so that
Yeah.
was worthy of, like, I would say the first Xbox, not even Xbox One.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, like you played it. I haven't. I just read a lot about it, and a lot of people in the Microsoft community were really upset because it's like, what is happening? And when Phil Spencer, he was going to be on a podcast I was doing, the XCast. He was going to be on there anyway, but then they had a bad week. They're trying to buy Activision Blizzard, and that kind of hit a snag. It's going a little bit better, but that was the same week that Redfall released, so he had like this double whammy of like bad things. You get these 4 out of 10 reviews for like a AAA release, and then you get bad news that you can't buy Activision Blizzard.
Mhm.
But he was very honest and said, it has to do with the vision. And then towards the end of the interview, he was very honest. He said, listen, I understand my words are hollow, that people have to get their hands on a controller and start playing some of these things that we promised. Because that's another thing that people have problems with Microsoft is they bought all these studios, but we haven't seen a lot of games. And so that's rough.
Yeah.
Where you're like, where is all this? What is happening with all this? Anyway, we could turn this whole podcast into something about Microsoft. But no, I think, for me, it's okay to be casual now.
Yeah.
Like when I play, it's okay for me to be like, hey, I got 30 minutes I'm going to put into this game. Yeah, I've had to beat stuff review for the pod, and that's kind of frustrating. But I don't really look at the thing as being casual as negative now. And so I think that's what's changed with me with time. Is like I'm okay with just playing something for a half hour and saying it, putting it down for a
Yeah.
bit, or doing something else.
Yeah. So
So
so I think that's what's changed for me is that casual gaming is no longer a thing. Is like you got to compete, and you don't have to compete as in win or loser type thing, but to stay relevant type thing.
oh
You
yeah,
have to compete, and so I've been wanting to play COD again, but the moment I log on, I'm so far behind the curve because I haven't played in like 10 years. So
yeah.
people that, like you said, come home, throw their bag in a creek, forget about homework for the entire weekend,
Their life, yeah, their
and,
laptops are
and
that.
then and so I'm playing against 15-year-old kids that are dominating just because
Hmm.
their parents don't care what they're doing, and work before play type thing. But then on top of that, you got semi-professionals and professionals playing against you. I mean, there's you spawn, you die, you spawn, you die. And so
Yeah,
to casual game, you have to find a game that you can play casually, that you can play at your own pace, and you can run it faster, but you're trying to capture the experience because, like we've talked about, for me to have an hour a day, 2 hours a day, maybe 3 hours in a week, to be able to sit down,
yeah,
and you want to just soak it all in like it's the sun and just enjoy yourself. And games like that, the casual play games, are few and far between because everything has to be online MMO style
yeah.
for you to get the true I guess vision of it all. And that's not how it is, and so
Well,
that's why I like sticking with the Inquisition. That's why
right.
I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to the Hogwarts.
who's gonna mess with you when you're just in Inquisition? Nobody's gonna come into your
Yeah,
game, and yeah, that's the way, like Tears of the Kingdom. That's the way I am. Where this is just a puzzle box for me, where I'm like, hey, what's over there? And I just go
yeah,
over there and just mess around, and then it's like, oh, I can build a flying machine. I might be able to get over to that other sky island, and then let me tell you, Martin, sometimes I didn't make it.
yeah,
Stuff would explode, and you're like, good thing they give you a parachute in this game because I'm about to die. So yeah, it's stuff like that. And I never go, oh man, I didn't min max this or whatever. It's like, oh, I died. I'm just gonna reload at a checkpoint.
yeah.
Fine. So yeah, and then I think too, putting pressure on yourself, like you said, you got to be competitive. It's like, well, do I?
Right,
Like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to. Like, I
right. And
So why don't I just play? At least COD has like ranked and unranked, so you can go to the unranked and be like, I have a Sunday, I'm messing around.
Yeah,
I don't have any time to like get. And I've heard people say that like I might try ranked, but like no, I'd get like you get my head
Yeah.
stomped in when
But
I,
even then,
you
like you
know,
have the unranked people, you have the ranked people playing against the unranked just because they want
yeah,
to
that's messed up.
insert their dominance type thing.
Yeah,
But that's why I also liked and miss games where it's you got casual players like me, you, Lisa, and Carla, and we sat down and we played a game. We played a division, and
yep,
we're good for casual people, but we just had a great time. We kept resurrecting each
yeah.
other. We shot people in the
Yeah,
nail
they're coming out with
unmentionable.
another one called Heartland, which is like the Division Heartland, which is like it takes place in the middle of the
Yeah,
country, and you could still group up and everything. And they again delayed it, but I'm looking forward to it. And they actually released a gameplay trailer for like what it looks like. I'll probably send it to you after this just so you could look at it. But
yeah,
it kind of blew me away where I'm like, oh, they're because I heard the Division Two, even though it was a more polished game, sold less than the Division One. So it's like, are they going to make another one? But they're already doing Heartland, and so I don't know. But yeah, I think I mean, to wrap up and everything, I'm just excited. I still get to play
yeah,
games, and I have my wife understands. She plays games too, and every night I've enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom, but some nights I want to read or whatever. You don't want to look at a screen all the time, and she always asks me, "Are you going to Hyrule tonight?" And I'm like, "No, I want to read or something." And she's like, "Okay, I'm
yeah.
just if you want to, she's never like even this morning I was like, oh, I figured out this thing you could do, blah blah. She goes, are you gonna get on that right now? I'm like, well, I got the thing with Martin, and then we're gonna go for a walk or
Yeah.
whatever, so maybe later or whatever. So I think it's like not putting pressure on yourself, but still trying to find time to do, and like your fiance is like, oh yeah, we have like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Go ahead and if you want to play, that's fine. Like I
Yeah.
don't,
Yeah. When then and then just
so
like that, it's been nice because as I've gotten older, and my time is a little more valuable. I do have time, so I'm not trying to say that I'm constantly busy because that's not the
well,
truth
I
of it.
mean,
But
I quote you all the time in the podcast. You're the one that came up with the famous thing that blew my mind, where you said, "No, I don't." I try to say that I don't have time. I try to make
make
time for
time.
things.
Yeah.
I said I haven't make time for that stuff, and I was like when you said that to me, I
Yeah.
was like mind blown. So
Seriously, and
yeah,
that's just it. Is most people would say, I just don't have the time, and it's you don't have the time, you don't make the time. There's a difference. For
yeah.
me, I just don't make the time to play as much as I used to, and then sometimes I just don't have the time. But with the kids as they've gotten older, and now they want to start playing with dad within the last 5 years, we
You
find
got a whole squad,
we
man.
find,
You got a whole
but we
squad
we
with you.
find stupid games to play, like Rubber
Mm-hmm.
Bandits,
Oh yeah.
stuff
Well,
like
you're
that.
playing that move out game where you're pitching couches through windows and
So
stuff.
funny.
I remember reading about that game, going, that looks really good. And then I think you and
Ronan
or I
O'Reilly.
saw, yeah, I saw your kids and your fiance playing, and they were laughing. So, like I just threw that couch through the door. When I was like, what is
it's
happening?
it's comical and like you get stuff like move the chicken and you pick up the chicken and you throw them in the back of the it's we play games like that just because they're silly. They could be upwards of 30 minutes to play, and it's
Mm-hmm.
before bedtime and after homework. And then if we have another time, we'll play another round of something like that, and it's so I've actually been enjoying sitting down and playing with like Lisa's kids when we go over there and will play like Jackbox, or Matthew and I will play a football game, or he'll come up and talk to me about have you tried the new blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, but have you
He's
tried?
you know what, he can't even it doesn't matter, he can't convert you to be a Souls player, because I think him and I were talking about how
That's
great Souls
Nick.
games were, and oh
Yeah,
yeah, well Nick and
no,
I were like, they're so good, and you
no.
just walked away. We're like, get
Well, they
out of
have the
here.
new Souls game, right? What was it called?
Elden Ring.
Elden Ring, and I was gonna play that, and then Nick was like, "You realize that's uh, what was it?
A Souls
The
game,
Souls game?" And I go,
from Software
"Yep," and I
Game.
go, "Nope." I didn't
They're
even buy
coming.
it. I said, "Nope."
They're coming out with a new game in September. They did another game years ago called Armored Core, which is a mech
Yeah,
game. You get in a mech and destroy stuff. They're coming out with a new one in September, and it looks pretty
yeah.
good. I think it's only on the PlayStation because I think they're aligned with Sony, so Sony's paying for it. So everybody's like, "Is it going to be on Xbox?" I'd have to look. It may be on
Yeah,
Xbox. I'm not sure. They like to do stuff
yeah.
multi-platform,
Well, try
because they're with Bandai Namco or whatever.
download that vampire game. I'm interested to see what
Oh, Redfall.
Redfall. I'm interested to see what you think because once again, this was a game that I was really looking forward to.
I
Um,
was too. I wanted to play with you guys, and then like we said, the influencers, people I listened to were like, "This game is
so
garbage," and I was like, "What happened?"
I will play it with a group. I won't play it by myself. So
Yeah.
and So check it
Well,
out.
there,
If you think it's worthy of a group, maybe we can start putting in like an hour or two aside
yeah,
sometime during
just
the
try it
week
out a little bit.
and just
Yeah.
just play as a group.
Well, there's another game coming out that actually Carla and I were looking at, which was called, Remnant from the
Yeah.
Ashes. Came out years ago. It's like a shooter, like a third-person
Yeah,
shooter.
Ronan loved it.
Uh, yeah, they're coming out with a sequel. It's coming out in September, I
Yeah.
think, and they have new I guess
Hmm.
archetypes. I don't remember the first one. They have like the gunslinger, so he's like DPS. He shoots really quickly. They have like a champion. It's like somebody in a full plate of medieval armor with a machine gun. That's
That's
pretty
interesting.
cool. Yeah, and they're the tank
Yeah.
basically, right? They run in and they have like a big sword melee weapon that's like a chain gun. Anyway, and then they have the handler, which is someone that has a dog. So I show that to Carla, and your dog can run, take aggro, it can heal you. And then they said it that they do these little like character reveals. So they do like a 5 minute video on what the character could do. And it's like if the dog gets down, don't worry, it's not dead. And like you go over and you pet it, and its tail starts to wag on the ground, and then it gets up and it can like go and heal people and stuff like
Very
that.
cool.
And Carla was like, "Oh, it's like a 4 player whatever," and I was like, "Can we all have dogs?" And she goes, "I don't know." And we were like looking at it. I was like, "That'd be something." Like it's coming out in September. It's on every
Yeah.
platform, I think. And I was like, "That'd be something too." I'll try Redfall, but I mean, after I'm literally, I'm playing stuff for the podcast. There's like a big game I'm gonna play, but it's like a 40-hour game, so I have to like schedule that in. Uh, and it's sad, but so yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to play. There's another game I got hooked onto. Somebody tweeted out it sounds really good, but it's only like it was like an indie developer game, and I think they're just publishing it to, see if they can do it and all that. I think it's only like an hour long, but it was like $2 on Steam. I might check that
Yeah.
out. It's supposed to be about grief, so.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, thanks for joining me for this casual Saturday chat as we talk about how our lives are going away from us and we no longer have time to do the
Yeah,
fun
brother.
things like watch Matlock and have soup at 4
Yeah,
p.m.
that's you, not me.
Yeah, no, yep. Old man show. Where's my cane? My soup's too hot. Get off my lawn?
Storms are brewing.
The storms of my knees hurt. The knees thing is a real
It is a
thing.
real
Though. I
thing.
know
I
as
can, yeah.
as I get older, they're like, oh yeah, the elevator's down and you got to go up to the 7th floor. I'm like, God.
Well, you're usually carrying
No.
tools and stuff though too, Joe. So
Yeah,
it's not like
yeah,
you're
it
just
sucks.
carrying yourself.
You got to make like 3 trips. Yeah, you're like, I got to carry this much stuff up on one load and then get my cart up. Oh, yeah, it sucks. So, well, you have a good Saturday, Martin, and I definitely will talk to you later. Thanks for doing this and us talking about how
Sure.
getting old is great and parenthood and stuff.
For
So,
sure, brother.
have a good Saturday,
Okay,
man.
you too, man.